A misconception related to science is when a student is incorrect due to prior experience. One example of this is if you were to ask a kindergarten if a rock is living or non-living, and they were to see the rock in one spot one day, and then the next day it was in another spot, they would think it's living due to the different location it had moved, and this misconception assessment I did was with a student in my practicum class. It was interesting to see their train of thought. Another science misconception is that rain comes from holes in clouds. Students think this because of their imagination and creativity, but haven't learned where the rain comes, so that's their answer, where rain comes. Number 2, I will leverage these misconceptions in my future classroom to help my students understand what they thought with what is actually true. Students will learn easier and better when they are relating it to a prior thought of theirs or something that they would have experienced. I'll be able to take their misconceptions and explain to them the right way. So for example, if rain comes from holes in the clouds, but give them the correct answer to where rain comes from, how it falls from the clouds. So by giving them visuals as well, because they can picture their misconception in their brain of the holes in the clouds, that's where the rain comes from. But if I give them a visual of that, it'll be easier for them to visualize and picture their misconception in the rain. Progressions of the standards. 3. The progression of the standard related to it. Mom, I'm in the middle of this video. They're right there on that bench. The progression of the standard related to the NGSS is a description of what content occurs for each of the grades. These progressions progress throughout each grade, overlapping, so each year they can pick up from what they have learned last year, but go to a higher extent. One example of this is the ESS 1A, the universe and its stars. In kindergarten through 2nd grade, the teachers will teach them about the patterns and of the stars and the moon and how the sun rotates, and how it can be seen from the earth. In grades 3rd through 5, the stars are described in more detail about the sizes and the distance they are from us on the earth and why they are brighter. Some are brighter than more. This goes along with the location of the earth and the moon as well. In the middle school, so 6 to 8, the school, the solar system is brought into the mix and talked about how there are so many. This sequence helps the students start from something very little to gaining a lot of information on one topic. 4, as a 5th grade teacher, your role is to talk about how science is important. So students go into middle school after this grade and they learn all the science topics more in depth. So it's important as a 5th grade teacher to really make sure you hit science so they don't go into 6th grade through 7th grade and they're like, shoot, I don't know because we haven't learned. So the 5E learning cycle, the first E we have is engagement. During engagement, this is when you introduce a topic you'll be discussing with your students. You also give them open-ended questions and scenarios to start their brainstorming about the topic. This engages the students' involvement. Next is exploration. During the exploration stage, you want to have as much hands-on activity as possible. The students gather information and brainstorm through the stage. So, and while they're brainstorming, you don't give them information as a teacher. You just let them brainstorm. You ask them open-ended questions so they are thinking. The 3rd E is explanation. This is when you as a teacher give explanations to the topic. You ask questions about what the students have found during their explore stage. The questions requires a lot of discussion, like through the teacher and the students as a class. But at the end of the questions in the discussion, you let them know like the answer. Then we did explanation. The next one is elaboration. So during elaboration, the students are able to elaborate on their activity that they performed during exploration stage and go more in depth with the information they gained during the explanation and explanation and exploration. You can have students share with the class what they elaborated on for the activity. You get to see them show more details about the topic and see if they understand the concepts and decisions that they have made. And lastly is the evaluation stage. This is assessments where you assess your students' understanding of the lesson. So this can be through like games at the end of the lesson. I know that's what we did, and it's a fun way for them to show us teachers what they have learned. Or it could be like an actual assessment, whatever you choose as a teacher. Feedback, which assignment was helpful and not helpful. I would say that the 5E, though it is very long and expensive, it really does help like looking at the bigger picture, because if you didn't go through that process and you didn't learn that process, then you wouldn't know how to make a lesson. Like, it would not be great. That's just my opinion. Even though we did complain sometimes about how we thought that it was a little bit extensive, but I think it is very important to learn that. I wish we kind of would have spent more time on that. Sometimes like in class we would go over some things and like make posters about a NGSS standard, and I would much rather gone like through 5Es and like ask questions than do a poster of over a standard or something, which I'm sure there is a reason why that was like that, but that was just my opinion. One thing that I didn't think that was very helpful, when we taught our 5E in class, at the end we did like a debrief, and then we did like a feedback from our peers in person, which was helpful. I really liked the feedback. Like, I think it was great, and you got to, when they shared a feedback, then you knew what their feedback was right away. But if you didn't understand their feedback, then you could ask them questions over their opinions, like get more in depth, like, or if they had a really good opinion, like, oh, you should have done this, I think that would really work, or like keep that in mind. But I don't think that the paper feedbacks were very helpful. I just felt like they were repeating themselves from what they already told us in person after we taught our lesson. And the comments on the feedback papers were all the same. You did really good. It was fun. Like, that's how all of them were. And I think it was just something that probably didn't have to be really in there, but I understand why as a teacher. It's something's in there, but feedback. I actually enjoy this class, even though I'm a person that does not like science that much. But I thank you, professors, so much. And I hope to see you guys around next semester. And happy holidays.